Hey guys, just a heads up, this is a sadder, not as fun, goofy, silly episode. So if you're feeling silly goofy, don't listen to this one today. But if you want to hear some serious history, tune in. Check us out.
Welcome to What You Missed When You Didn't Exist. I am Corbett, and I am 52.
And I'm Lucy, and I'm 23.
23 no less.
Yeah.
And today I am going to shock her because she has never, I don't know how this got missed, but she has never heard of the events that happened in Tiananmen Square in 1989.
What do you mean you're shocking me with what I missed?
I am
This
going to
is
be shocking you. This is going to
this is
be a
the
bit
What
of
You
a.
Missed When You Didn't Exist podcast. This is the purpose, is to shock me with knowledge.
Well, normally you have a little bit of knowledge, and when I suggested this, and you're like, I don't even know what that is. People who know are going to go, oh yeah, that was rough. Okay, so
Okay, let's get into it.
let's get into this. All right, this kind of takes a little bit of time to cover some of it, but the basic sum up of this is China is a communist country. You know that, right?
Yes.
Okay. China's a communist country, same as Russia after World War II. The two of them came allied just because they were both a communist country.
Hmm.
Communism was not going well for Russia by 1989. In fact, the Berlin Wall had fallen by then. They had started nosediving, and essentially communism was on its way out, or at least everybody thought it was.
Okay.
Since you know where it is now, I think you already know that it didn't go away. But anyway, to cover a little bit of what led up to it, there was, I think it was a professor in, I want to say like the early 80s. Yeah, an astrophysics professor, Fang Liz He. If I got that pronounced, or I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly, but that's the name, Fang Liz He.
Okay.
And they had a teaching position at Princeton or some type of. They were at Princeton University outside of China for a while. That professor came back and basically started promoting the idea of, hey, what about democracy and liberty and all that human rights sort of stuff? That sounds pretty good. Which, it sounds great if you live in a communist country because, okay, so communism is not super swell. Just to sort of warm you up to this, I don't know
Well,
where you
I
stand on
I
it,
do
but
know. Yeah.
okay.
I have
Well,
learned
no,
that
no.
much.
The concept of socialism is kind of easy. We all share and share alike, and we all get the same things, more or less.
Okay.
The problem is communism is the idea of, okay, we'll put a group of people in charge of this share and share alike thing, and they get first dibs.
Okay.
So everybody else gets what's ever left over. And it's not. This is the very simplest version of communism. I'm sure somebody will love to tell us about that. But anyway, so this professor comes back, starts touting like, "Hey, it'd be great. Everybody dumping communism and everybody going to capitalism. Yay!" And not to clamor at how good or bad capitalism is, but the communist leaders weren't too kind about it.
I mean, that's kind of how it goes.
I can't remember if that person was exiled or killed because it wound up falling to another person.
Okay.
Because it handed off from several different things precipitated to people starting to go, hey, having freedom would be nice. Freedom is good. I like freedom. Freedom's great. So in, was it 80, 89, April? Okay, in April of 89, who I'm going to be terrible at pronouncing these names. I'm sorry. Hu Yaobang died of a heart attack, and he was one of the student leaders that was kind of promoting, let's get democracy, let's make things happen. Now, because Hu Yaobang died of a heart attack, there was a lot of conspiracy to the fact that the government obviously killed them off and bad stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's true or not. I kind of doubt any of that's true, but I wasn't really paying attention. I don't think anybody was at that time because what was going to happen got really complicated kind of quick. Well, got really complicated, stayed complicated, and then things happened.
Yeah.
Basically, a bunch of students started protesting. They started marching, and they would go and have these sit-ins and demonstrations and pump out new. They're college students, basically. Lots of college students, thousands and thousands of college students. They're all
Mhm.
promoting and pushing for freedom. Toward the end of April, there was a rioting event, and things got a little dicey. More demonstrations, things started escalating. I remember they had a hunger strike. I feel like I feel like people were passing out and being taken away, but I don't know if they died or not. Like how many people. And this is the one thing I can tell you right now. I can't tell you any numbers because everybody has different sets of numbers as to how many people died from all this.
Mhm.
But what it kind of led to was in June. By the end of April, they still went through May with kind of a regular routine of demonstrations, and things were put into effect. By May, China's government reacted by invoking martial law, which is the best plan. So they
Yeah.
locked down the country and told everybody, go home and don't be there. And of course, all these students are just like living in Tiananmen Square because they got nothing else to do. Tiananmen
Mhm.
Square is a very large. I mean, it's like Golden Gate Park if it was all paved, or
Oh,
maybe not as big as
okay.
Golden Gate Park, because Golden Gate Park is gigantic. It's big. It's just a big square. It's if you've ever seen like Russians marching tanks and missiles through something, it looks kind of like that. It's big.
Mhm.
Basically, at the beginning of June, they started cracking down on getting them to leave. They wanted them to leave. On June 2nd, they literally told everybody if you appreciate things, stay away from Tiananmen Square. And
Oh, okay.
on the 3rd, a tank division rolled in to Tiananmen Square, and the students reacted the way any rioting student would do, which is start throwing things at the tanks.
Oh.
And I can tell you something. This happened similarly in America in the '60s
Mhm.
when National Guards were sent out to deal with protesting like peace, like the hippie kids. And one of the famous ones is a girl with a flower steps up real slowly to the American troops, puts the flower in the end of the gun, and steps away. And it's like, oh, that's, they didn't fire, everything was fine, and it was sweet. That did not happen in China.
Okay.
In China, the army opened real weapon fire, not rubber bullets, actual
Mhm.
real fire, into a crowd of students.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, real bad. There are reports of hundreds to thousands dead in the events, and they pretty much marched across Tiananmen Square and took it. Now, that was horrifying and terrible, and America only got little glimpses of it because it's communist China. You're not really allowed to be in there.
Yeah.
I guess the one thing that you can take away that was really, really big, or the thing that most people like, oh, yeah, I remember it because of this one thing. There was a guy called Tank Man, which is nothing like Iron Man.
Okay, I was gonna say he sounds like a superhero.
They called him Tank Man because nobody knows his name.
Oh.
There's some people who say it was one person or another person, but nobody has a definitive like this guy. There's a person, and I honestly kind of get the feeling that this guy was just on his way home because he's carrying two plastic bags, one in each hand, and he's
Mhm.
walking across Tiananmen Square, and it's on the 5th, like the day after all this shooting happened,
Mhm.
and he's just walking along, and he just like these tanks are pulling across in a convoy formation, so in a straight line, and this man just kind of walks out there and stands in front of one of the tanks,
Whoa.
and he keeps like walking back and forth and making sure he's in the way of the lead tank so it can't move. I mean, it's scary because he's a single person with no
Mhm.
weapons. He was carrying like plastic bags of groceries as far as I could tell,
Yeah.
and he was blocking a military tank brigade.
Jeez.
Well, at least for a little while.
Mhm.
He was, I think, he was taken away or carried away, and the leader of the military said that he wasn't killed, but
Okay.
that does not, since nobody knows who he is and he's never come forward, I get the impression that he was probably removed from life.
Yeah.
But it was impressive that one man, all by himself, stopped an entire tank brigade. That was probably the biggest, like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Which it's kind of sad that that's our takeaway because of the amount of people that were literally gunned down.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they did spend months just protesting and standing. And in our last show, we talked about the Statue of Liberty. They actually made like a faux Statue of Liberty out of I don't know if it was white. I think they called it Lady Liberty or Lady Freedom,
Okay.
but it was destroyed and ripped down. The goddess of democracy. That's what it's called. The goddess of democracy. I
Oh,
had to look it up.
that's cool.
But the goddess of democracy was the one that was ripped down, and she was holding a torch, and it was all about freedom. But when the tanks rolled in, they ripped it all down because
Yeah.
that's bad.
Man.
Now you know some serious history.
Serious history.
It's pretty serious history, and there's been a lot of times in history when students have stepped up to say we don't like this that's happening, and very large amount of the time a military force comes out to kind of push the edge, and usually students will push back. It's just a question of how it goes, and it's always a question of how it goes. Anytime
Yeah.
you see a military show up, it's very questionable about what's about to happen.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy to think about. I feel like most of the people that try to fight back or rebel against things are almost, well, college student age, not necessarily high school age, because you're still rebellious, but you're too scared to do anything about it because you're still under parental control and guidance. But that's interesting that it's really only college students that try to fight back against regimes that they question.
College professors are the ones who started it.
Yeah,
They're
you know.
teaching the young, they're influencing the young, which was the complaint about Socrates. That's why they had him drink poison.
Dun dun dun.
And that's why, if I remember right, the Germans, when they went into towns, they would basically round up all the teachers and get rid of them. They
Oh,
cause
that's
problems.
terrible.
Sorry, you're in a bad profession.
Save the teachers.
Well, they make people think, and we don't want that.
I know. Can't educate the people. That would be terrible.
The youth are rebellious because ultimately the future is what they're wanting to fight against.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the future is going to happen regardless. So as you age, you see it happen over and over and over again.
So you just get beat down by reality and you can't
Which is
fight
why when you're older, you're
anymore?
just like, whatever. I just want to
That's
sit down for a minute.
terrible. Oh my gosh. Well, we need less bad things, but more people to care. And that's democracy. I don't know. That's life.
Are you trying to go with a catchphrase? It's
Yeah, I'm trying really hard and it's flopping, so it's okay.
no, it's all right. It was a very complicated event, and I'm kind of sad you don't know about it. Like it wasn't important enough to include in a basic history, but I mean, it's happened a lot. There's been a lot of
Yeah,
times in American history too where people stood up against something and the military shows up and then you kind of wait and see. And
yeah,
I think there was the cattleman who was trying to avoid paying taxes or whatever. He did a armed standoff against the military.
yeah,
And there's a big difference between an armed standoff and a peaceful standoff against the military.
yeah.
Just to point that out. These
Mhm,
people were students. They weren't walking around with firearms or anything like that. They were just like, we want freedom.
mhm.
We don't need this communism anymore. It's all done. So we're ready for freedom. And I think they felt like there was a good chance they might get it. And that generation definitely did took it on the chin.
Mm, yeah,
I guess looking now, you don't hear anything about that out of China. You don't hear any kind of talks
yeah.
like that.
I feel like there's a lot of restrictions now, which is surprising considering. Well, okay. I think maybe the problem is now that there's so much media in the world that everything gets kind of drowned out. If something big happened in the world, you heard it on the radio or you heard it. Well, I don't know how you heard it. I wasn't there.
Mm-mm.
But I just feel like you didn't get as much media coverage as there is now because now everyone has a chance to upload it on their phones and send it out into these different news outlets, and everyone's getting so much news all at once that it just news loses its meaning.
Well, at the time, the really only way to see it would be there was no like live footage. No
Well,
easy
yeah.
live footage at the time for sure. When the Tiananmen Square events happened, there was nobody that was allowed to film. Everything was blocked.
Yeah.
If there is any footage of the actual events and the gunning people down, I would probably not recommend it, but I guess everybody has their own choices.
Mm-hmm.
China has always been really big on blocking their media inputs and outputs, which is kind of
Mm-hmm.
funny. And I noticed that we have a lot of our movies adjusted whenever they go to China. So
Yeah, a lot more filtering and whatnot. Can't have
yeah,
can't have the people thinking again. It's actually kind of like Fahrenheit 451 a little bit.
oh,
You're burning the bits of knowledge that you don't want people to know so they don't revolt and uprise.
I guess. Well, they're also blocking stuff that they don't like.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Censorship. It's what Fahrenheit 451 talks about all
Yeah.
the time. Censorship of the government. Boom.
Well, now you know.
I do know.
I don't know if you're better for it, but it's something that happened. It was kind of bad. Luckily, it wasn't America that did it. Well, hypothetically, I guess we could have. No, I'm sure there were general agencies, spy type stuff going on of people trying to help sow the seeds of democracy
Yeah.
or nurture the seeds of democracy. Though it was just rereading it all, it was obvious it was coming from a lot of the educational system. You know, people that were involved in other schools outside of the country and saw
Hmm.
what it was like. I mean, you live in a small area, you grow up in a small area. This is your world. Why
Yeah.
would you need to know anymore?
Don't live beyond it.
Yeah. So I guess, let freedom ring
There you
somehow.
go. Look at that catchphrase. We'll add a little star, a little ding.
Oh, 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 I don't know.
Come on, freedom ring, and then you have a ding. Come on. That was good. The
That was
pun,
good.
immaculate.
I don't know if this is one I want to pun on, but that's okay.
It's fine. It works.
But I'm sure for you history professors, you'll want to write in and tell us at mail@whatyoumissedpodcast.com and let us know what we missed or what I missed because she missed the whole thing.
I did miss the whole thing. I didn't exist. I missed it,
Yeah,
you guys.
it's a problem. I think I was just mostly baffled that you had never even heard about it. Like not even a little, like not even like, oh yeah, this was one time this thing happened.
Well, no,
Okay.
I got an American education, Dad, so I learned about America. That's it.
Oh, and now we're bagging on America. Come on.
I'm just saying.
Well, now you're
G-
part of the American education system, so that's your job.
Yay! Let me work on that.
I know. Here we are. Here we are.
Here we are.
So anyway, for what you missed when you didn't exist, I've been Corbett, and freedom's all right. I like it.
Freedom's all right. This has been Lucy. Again, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, go to mail@whatyoumissedpodcast.com.
Just rolls off the tongue.
Send us some info.